Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned in live to the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live or listening to replay. It's just been incredible years of doing the episodes for the vault and continuously having listeners listen and continuously grow our audience. Just been growing leaps and bounds during this time because so many people are seeking what people consider financial literacy, financial education, having a diverse education in different, particularly asset classes, having access to more financial information at different levels. It's so crazy because we were talking about periodicals and prerequisites for trustees, things that they can subscribe to, and most of those periodicals you actually have to pay for. So, even in financial times right now, you still have to pay for financial information, and for that reason, we want to address people having to deal with that, public information that they're having to pay for, and just having access to more of it. Especially as a financial researcher, everybody's in that process of developing their financial research, and so you develop your financial research just by seeking and finding, and in turn, you find higher levels, higher degrees, as people go to college to get degrees to actually learn financial information. So, to improve their lives and their output based off of the information that they learn. So, really excited. This is episode 208. Your government names trust, and this is just really important as an episode because so many people come to trustee training and they're perplexed by the trustee mindset. And so we really just wanted to do an episode where we addressed what people call your government names trust. So many people feel like they have a government name. That truly depicts ownership right there when someone says that's my government name. So it really does put someone in a position of trusteeship, particularly if the government is caretaking for your name. Literally, if you're saying that the government is, they literally have ownership of your name. If the government has ownership of your name, that means that there's a business involved, and that's why there's a social security number. And so we're not going to talk about necessarily social security and any of that today. We may touch on that, but when it says your government names trust, a lot of people are looking at it from that perspective. They're looking at it from a perspective of, what is this entity and things of that nature. So we're gonna go ahead and hop straight into it. Your government names trust. This is an episode dedicated to people that are already living their life and literally they don't know that they're trustees. A lot of people walking around do not know that they've been living in a position of having to, contract for their entire life. And so, since that's the case, we want to go ahead and tell people what they are literally calling their name, what it looks like in law. You all can look up this term. It's called the cestui trust, CESTUI space QUE trust, a cestui trust. This is old English style of law that's being practiced when you can look at it. So we're going to look at what is a cestui trust. A cestui trust is a person entitled to an equitable as opposed to a legal estate of the trust assets. So these are just general definitions you're going to see on the internet. A cestui use is the person for whose benefit the trust is created. So, what position are you in? Has a government name been established for your benefit? Well, don't you receive benefits from the government name? Do you receive benefits from your government name? If it's your government name, do you receive benefits from it? Once again, the cestui use is the person whose benefit the trust is created. A cestui trust is the person entitled to the equitable as opposed to the legal estate in the trust assets. Thus, if land is granted to A for the use of B while in trust, with the remainder to C with the trust determinants, A is the trustee. If land is granted to A, so people have given away so called rights to who? The trustee. And B, the cestui use, is for C, the cestui trust. So, what position are you in? If the cestui trust is this so-called entity, the government name, well, what position are you in? Are you a trustee or are you a beneficiary? Because if you're a beneficiary, you get whatever comes to you. You can't control what benefits come to you. Can you determine how much money you pull from the trust? So this is where we go in and deal with these different groups, the Moors, or we deal with these different vigilante groups out here saying that the government owes them money. The government has this trust set up for them. People are talking about these funds that the government has for them and all this other stuff. Literally, what position are you in when you're saying that the government has funds for you? As a trustee, the government doesn't have funds for you. As a trustee, you're a fiduciary of the funds. But are you really a fiduciary? Are you in a position of fiduciary trustee mindset, or is it in a position of beneficiary mindset? So then we get into, did you know you were in a trust with your government name? Because the government name is a cestui trust. And once again, a cestui trust is a person, which is a trust, entitled to the equitable. So now we have to know the difference between equitable as opposed to the legal estate and the trust assets. So think about it. You worked your whole life, you acquired all these assets in your name. Remember the government name, the so-called one that has a social security number. That's the business name that you're using for everything. And it's a cestui trust. Oh, okay. So now you didn't know you were using that, but now you know that you're using that. Okay. Well, this deals with positions, legal position, equitable position. In real estate, they got a legal title and an equitable title. They got the land that actually has an encumbrance on it, and then they have a paper. Just like when you buy a stock, are you buying a tangible thing or are you buying a paper derivative? See, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the age of derivatives right now. That's what beneficiary certificates resemble. They resemble a share or an interest in property. So do you have an interest in your government name? Oh, sure you do. And what position do you have that in? Do you have that in a trustee position or do you have that in a beneficiary position? Well, most people have been given a beneficiary certificate. It's called the birth certificate. The birth certificate. So then you get these groups out here talking about birth certificates and how the government owes them money because supposedly because they have a birth certificate, now they're owed money. Now they think that the birth certificate is worth something just because they have a birth certificate. They think, well, guess what? Since the government, I'm in the country, I'm a citizen or whatever. Hey, the birth certificate says I'm a part of this country and I have an equitable share. That's what it resembles. It doesn't resemble legal title, does it? Who has legal title of the name? But who has equitable title? An equitable title traditionally deals with receivership. What position are you in? What position is the government in? They're in receivership right now. When they went bankrupt, didn't they say that we had to bail in the citizens? We had to make them a part of the New Deal? Did you forget about that? That's called the whole Social Security system. The government's trust, the cestui trust. They bailed you into a position of beneficiaryship. So what happened to trusteeship? Well, most people left trusteeship because they left the responsible position of own nothing, control everything. How can you own the government's name? But you think you did when you started using it and calling it that. So they got your government name's trust. Oh yeah, that's what it sounds like. Your government name's trust. That's why they call it your government name. See, in the spiritual world, we can say whatever we want. But in the government realm, there's a legal aspect to it. So now you hear them say government name, legal name. They don't want to tell you it's your government name, but what do they call it? The legal name, the legal person. Oh, really? The legal name and the legal person. Okay. So what's your legal name? Right. Let's go back to what the cestui trust says about the legal name. A cestui trust is a person entitled to an equitable as opposed to a legal estate in the trust assets. So what happened? Did you get legal position or you got equitable position? Well, the cestui use is the person whose benefit the trust is created. So you're using it. You're using it. Really? Yeah. That means you're in the position of legal. Well, it says equitable, but how are you not in a position of legal? Someone else is in a position of legal. They took trusteeship over the estate because most people don't know how to manage their estate. And that's why we do trustee training at the vault, is because it's about the management of the estate. There's nothing wrong with the so-called cestui trust, but when you know that you're in trust and you operate appropriately as a trustee, it's just taking proper responsibility in trusteeship. Bottom line, that's what the vault offers, is trustee training for trustees, people that want to take responsibility for their so-called positions that they're holding, that they may or may not have known that they were holding. And literally, when you were growing up your entire life till 18 years old, were you in did you call it your government name then? Some people may come from those environments where they joked about it, but you weren't using a legal name completely until you went into business. And then you dealt with income. And then you dealt with taxes. And then you dealt with estate. Why? Because after 18, most people traditionally now are building and acquiring assets. You may have been doing that previous, but most people walk out into what's considered the majority. Most people are supposed to be a majority at 18, but they're not. They're called minors. See, in law, the terms don't mean the same thing. So when you're a minor, that means you don't have a good financial mind. That's why they call themselves minors. They need the government. They're dependent. The minors need the government name. The majority, they utilize the proper entities and do business properly when they're in an environment that says it's a legal name. It's called a legal name. That means it's a business name. So your government name's trust is a business name. It's not a personal thing. It's business. It's never been personal. The country was founded on business. They contracted and killed people off for business purposes to start a new world. That's why you have a new deal. People wanted to accept the new deal. The new deal is guess what? Don't worry about it. When you get 65 years old, we'll take care of you. But hey, matter of fact, we're not going to take care of you. We're going to make you pay into a system by default. Hold on, 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 hold on. I was birthed out of my mother, not another man. So man's law is not ownership of the name that has been given to any man. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. But it was. It was commercialized in a federal jurisdiction called a hospital. In a federal jurisdiction, say, guess what? We're going to have ownership of the name. We're going to submit it and we're going to create a debenture, a derivative, a certificate, a security. And that was created. A birth certificate. Oh, it goes under a QSIP number. So it's called a business, a legal name now. From the beginning. Oh no, what did they do with the birth certificate? Oh no, then we got these people. Well, we verified it. And guess what? We got our birth certificate authenticated. Why you need the daggone birth certificate authenticated? The United States is up and alive and running. The daggone thing ain't what validity does it give to it? We're gonna get people to say, oh, it gave validity to it because it authenticated. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go to the Department of State and they're gonna authenticate it. And what? So what? The birth certificate already came from a federal jurisdiction. That's why it's a United States one, not a state birth certificate. And then some people do have state birth certificates that they go get authenticated on a federal level. What does that mean now? The federal is the government. The states are local jurisdictions that people abide. The local jurisdictions have, it's a checks and balances, ladies and gentlemen. That's why these states have different powers right now. Some of them are locking down, some of them not. Because the government does have a separation of powers. So what name are you referring to when you say the government name? Is it a federal one now or is it a state one? And when you learn it's the government name's trust, why aren't you in a position of own nothing, control everything? The government's doing that. Is the government controlling your name? Are they selling your name on the black market with derivatives attached to it, with debts attached to it, and you a slave to it? Talking about it's yours because you want ownership. It's not about ownership. It's about control. It's always has been, always will be, because that's true stewardship of assets. We can't own assets. We didn't create them. We're stewards. We're trustees. So when you step into that position of trusteeship, then you say, now I'm not in a position of beneficiary position now. I'm in a position of control, trusteeship. I've came into majority, sound mind. Your government names trust. people still want to take ownership of every asset in their life. They have a hard time with this concept of ownership. Well, guess what? Don't worry about it. The government did it for you. They already knew you wanted to own something. They programmed you your whole life to own a car, to own a house, and you think you even own your own body. So guess what? They gave you a number for your body. And when there's a debt that comes up with that legal name, your body is considered collateral for the debt. Oh, really? There's debtor camps? Yeah, there's debtor camps. A debtor camp is where you go to pay off your debt to society. You know where that place is. Where do you go to pay your debts to society? To the public. So you have a debt to the public now with that name? Ladies and gentlemen, you can go on national.clock. What is this? National.debtclock.org. Or hold on. National Debt Clock, you all. You go to National Debt Clock. usdebtclock.org, excuse us, usdebtclock.org. And when you go to us.debtclock, DEBT clock.org, you all can see what's going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, the United States, they're supposedly fudging the numbers. So okay, if they're fudging the numbers, these are the numbers that they're fudging. You can see them. At least you can see the numbers that they're fudging. Oh man, these numbers are getting out of control. They're in the trillions. The average citizen doesn't make this. Oh no, this is how many people are unemployed. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is information that's right in front of your face. People want to talk about, oh no, I don't know what's going on. This is right here in front of your face. Your government's name is a part of the U.S. debt clock. It's a part of the cestui v. trust. Are you a citizen? Your government's name is a citizen name, right? So it's a business name. And the United States is definitely going to make sure that they get theirs. Are you? The government name. Think about it. Is the country run by names of people, or is it run by companies? Private people. People that know how to operate properly in business. Google, Facebook, Amazon. What about the owners? Yeah, they're not called owners anymore. They're called founders. We're in the age of founders now. They came up with a new term. They know how to make sure, they know how to mask and cloak themselves right in front of your face. But I like being called a founder. Yeah, but are you a newbie founder or are you an experienced founder? See, the newbie founders that go through the incubators that are through these big tech companies, they'll tell you how to set up your company properly so you're not dealing with your government name and being sued out of the asset. Because these VCs, these angel investors, they're not going to give you money directly to yourself. They're not going to give you millions of dollars in your own name. They're going to have somebody come in and sit on the board of the company, and they're going to make sure that the company is held in trust properly. Like Google and Alphabet A, Alphabet B. You didn't know that? So when you go look at the stock now, it used to be Google, but guess what? They changed their stock ticker now to Alphabet A. But there is a B and there is a C. So they made sure that these young kids that were set up in Google, these young kids that were set up in YouTube, these young kids that were set up in Facebook, these young kids that were set up in Microsoft, these angel investors that have been in the marketplace investing since the 70s, in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and this technology, they made sure people are doing it from the proper position. Why? Did you not develop something that can literally control people, like the government? Doesn't the government control people? It governs their mind? This is what you got to do, right? This is how you got to live your life, right? Ladies and gentlemen, who controls public school? Is it the government? Oh, yeah. That's the government education. Don't you know about the government education? What happened to the private education, though? Hold on. My family, could they afford private education? Or otherwise you're left to the government education, using your government name your whole life. And what they say is two guarantees in life: death and taxes. Sounds like most people on the public side, the government name side, that's what they participate in their entire life. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Knowing the difference between the public and the private. People reached out to the vault for years. So, what about the government name? We're gonna put a lien on it. We're gonna put a lien on your government name. Who's gonna put a lien on your government name? Who's gonna put a lien on your government name, ladies and gentlemen? This is the type of questioning that we get at the vault. These aren't made up questions, ladies and gentlemen. Most people would have typed this in the chat a minute ago. So how do we control our government names? How do we get control of our government names? You step into a position of trusteeship. You stop owning it and you control it. You stop being in a beneficiary position. The beneficiary position? The position of acceptance. You get in a position where you're now making offers for the name. You're creating for the name. Creating. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're in a position of the government name, are you receiving benefits or creating? Well, we're doing both. We know that you're in an incorrect position, and that's why you're getting hit the way you're getting hit, because you can't hold two positions at the same time. And if you do, it's considered to hold more than one position. They call it an alter ego. That means it's just a namesake, but it's not really another separate, distinct legal person. It's not separate. It's yourself. That's why you call it your government name. You have a share in the government through your birth certificate. You have a share in the government. You think you're entitled to some benefits. Really? You think you're entitled to benefits, reparations, or some type of number from some third party? Oh, guess what? The government just became your God. Who's going to give you clean air? The government. Who's going to give you clean water? The government. Who's going to give you money? The government. Who's going to give you shelter? The government. Who's going to give you food? The government. Who's going to give you everything? Who's going to give you how to feed yourself? The food pyramid. The government. That comes from the public side. The government. Your government name. And you still want to own the government name? How you own the government name? You didn't even create the programs for the government name. What is the tax structure like for the government name as opposed to the private names? The private names, which are the businesses, are they paying taxes? Google. Google Amazon. How you become $1 trillion company very quickly? Oh, really? But you want to own just the government name. I got to make sure I live with my government name. I got to pass along everything in my government name. Because that's what people are taught in government school, called public school, to govern and control your mind, to make you think like a public puppet. But were you a puppet? Were you the beneficiary or the trustee of the cestui trust? Which one were you? Were you operating trust properly through business entities, or were you operating through your government name, through your sole proprietor name? The name is getting hit with 30% plus, 40% plus. Yeah, and then you forgot, you didn't really know that actually after you start making a lot of money, there's a luxury tax. So now 48%. You like, damn, 43 to 48%. With my government name, hell, I'm not trying to work no more. Why am I working hard to give the government half of it just through income? Yeah, did you forget about sales tax? Did you forget about property tax when you got properties in your government name? Oh, damn, I'm losing it all. I'm up to 60% now. Now you see why people's families don't make it from one generation to the next, because they passing it along in their government name. But I thought my attorney was supposed to tell me that. I thought my accountant was supposed to give me financial advice. I thought my banker was supposed to give me financial advice. Well, did they get a government education from a subsidized government school? Hold on. Let's say that again. Did they get a government education from the public side? They got a public education for 12 years. Then they went to a college that was subsidized by the government. Maybe not all people, though. Some people actually went to a true private college. So they got superior financial knowledge. They have superior education. Those are usually called Ivy League. They said, we don't want the government's money. See the difference? Those are privately funded college. Guess what? They're privately funded through private families in the proper position. through endowments. Just like the public schools are funded through endowments. But those public schools now, they accept the government funds. So they're more of a public school now. But the private classes that are taught are funded through private families. So the general education class, the electives, the BS electives, the things that they just want to water you down with, guess what? Those are the public subsidized educations. Those are the government educations. Still giving you public information. Is there a difference between public and private education? Of course it is. So there is a private name, and then there's a government name, the public one. And the government name is the cestui trust. So now you know you're operating in a position of either trusteeship or beneficiary position. And you have to make a choice. Are you going to be a beggar? Because a beneficiary doesn't even determine when they get a distribution. Did you determine how much money was in your stimulus check? Right now, did you need more money than little? Then you pay into Social Security? How they going to tell you how much money you can squeeze out of the trust at one time? Because they're the trustee. The beneficiaries have no control. They get whatever's given to them. That's a servant position. They're not serving. They're in a position of acceptance. They get whatever's given to them. So the trustees are the ones generally making the estate plan. Guess what? They have a default estate plan. It's called the government name. You come out, you get to use it. If you don't know about the private name, you get the free government name. Isn't that name free? Don't you get a free Social Security number? Doesn't it take money to make money? Don't you have to start a business with money properly on the legal side? Yes. Can you raise funds privately and then start a government side, business side on the public side? Yes, you can. You can raise the money privately and go out and start the LLC, S Corp, and C Corp on the public side. And then you can sell part of that company on the stock market or sell it for shares. Even LLCs have shares, ladies and gentlemen. They have partners and they have shares. The corporate ones or the C Corps are the ones that generally just go public. You usually see C Corps go public where they're selling shares, and now they have to have regulations and restrictions on who they sell their shares to. See, in the private, there's less restriction. In the public, there's more restrictions on who you sell shares to. See, they have protections in place for government name people. So you have to be operating in the proper position to buy these shares. Because they got founder stock, and then they got general common stock, and then they got preferred stock. You didn't know that? What stock are you buying when you buy stock? See, you think you have a proper education, but you're buying common stock. What about the preferred stock? Why don't you have opportunities to buy preferred stock? Did you know about that? What about founder stock? That's why they call themselves founders now. But that's what happens when you have a government education, a public education. You're not educated on that the LLCs can have shares too. The C Corps have shares too. That's what we're talking about. This is the information discrepancy from having a government name. You're operating in your government capacity. But are you operating as a true politician and being diplomatic as a trustee, a steward of the estate? Are you being a proper steward of your family estate, of your last name? Your government's name is your last name. They stole it right up under your eyes. You calling the government name your last name. Your first name, last name, whatever one. It's the government name. But what happened you being a trustee of that name? Instead, most people are beneficiaries, waiting for a handout from the government name now. Well, I put energy into that government name. You sure did. But are you in the proper position? Are you operating as a trustee or a beneficiary? That's what this episode was about. It was to address that for the people that want to say, oh, I have a government name. You can pass this message along to your friends. They got the government name. For all of us that call it that, the government name. Like the government owns you. See, when the government owns you, you might as well call yourself a slave. And we happy to call you that. Because you a slave. When you could call yourself the government name. Take it for what it is. Slave. That's what you're called. Now, when you want to step into your pro se, your proper person, and be a majority, not be a minority, somebody that doesn't know that the government can't own you through a birth certificate, slave, you over here holding on to chattel property. Cattle property. Cattle, you a slave. And you want to talk about a government name. And you wonder why the government's running your life. Because you got a government name, accepting government benefits. It's trusteeship. Own nothing, control everything. No, you can't own the house. No, you can't own the car. And guess what? No, you can't own your name. And when you say you own your name, you're going to be taxed or sued out of assets because it's a cestui trust. Let's read what the cestui trust is again. The cestui trust is a person entitled to equitable, which is the actual property, that birth certificate, as opposed to the legal title, estate of the trust assets. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. This is financial literacy 101 coming from the vault. We don't need to talk about it. We are. You live it. You a trustee. You've been a trustee the whole time. People say, oh, I don't know how to be a trustee, man. I got enrolled in trustee training. You're right, because it's a continuing education program. Just like public school wasted your time, just like college wasted your time. Why did it waste your time? Did it teach you about the difference between your government name and the real private capacity that you're really walking around in as a trustee? Or are you a beneficiary of the public government name? That's the difference. It's simple mathematics. 1 plus 1 equals 2. No, the government can't own your name. But guess what? Because you went to government school, they told you that and you believed it. So you might as well say you a slave. They own your body too, don't they? They don't just own your name. They don't just own your estate. They own your property in the estate, your body. So when you die, if you don't even have the money to take care of your body when you die, it goes into probate. They better all burning your body, desecrating your body. Oh, guess what? Now, guess what? Remember on the back of your ID, your property is automatically been defaulted for government scientific and research purposes. Did you read that on the back of your card? You're a donor now by default. Look at your driver's license. Are you a default government donor now to scientific research? Because you didn't own your name? Yeah, you didn't want to put on there UCC 1-308, all rights reserved. No, I do not. My family estate does not give away my property or the property of the family estate to the government unless we getting a fee. You think people aren't leasing out their property to the government for free? That's called government contracting. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So are you leasing out your property in the proper capacity? Or are you leasing out your property? You're not even leasing out your property. Your property is being ex-cheated. You want to go there tonight? Ex-cheated. You're being cheated out of your estate. Let's go with ex-cheated. You revert to the Lord or the state taking over your estate. It's a transfer of property. And you don't have any heirs because you didn't name them properly. So your estate is left in limbo. And guess what? Guess what? They got lawyers out here ready to claim your estate on a low. It's called a will. Who has to be the administrator of the will? The lawyer. Because it went through probate. You have a will in place, it goes through probate. If you die without a will, it goes intestate. Oh man, I didn't know all these terms, man. That's what happened to my mother. That's what happened to my grandmother. They left me property and now I'm staying stuck with it and I don't know what to do with it. They gave it to me and then get deal with taxes and all this other stuff. Government name education. We appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free. Trustee training enrollment is definitely ending. The beginning of July, we're probably going to enrollment for. We got so many people enrolled in trustee training. We just want to make sure we always take care of them properly. So trustee training enrollment is definitely going to end before the 7th of July. That's about another week. And we definitely look forward to you all enrolling in trustee training. But your government names trust is definitely just an extension of trustee training. You making sure that you're a trustee and a manager of your estate in general, the family's estate in general, and then not being one of those things where people in your family and your bloodline literally can walk around with this type of philosophy and don't think that they're going to get ahead. How can you get ahead and you're in a position of servitude or beneficiary position? You're not going to be able to advance further than the trustee. The trustee's the one that's controlling the finance. They're the fiduciary. Appreciate you for tuning in live. Listen to replay. Feel free to reach out. Christian at Trust Christian. Peace.